Today, we're diving into a topic that's on the minds of many middle-income families: renting versus buying a home. Which is better? With the housing market constantly changing, it's crucial to understand the pros and cons of each option. So whether you're dreaming of owning your own place or debating the benefits of renting, stick around as we break it all down in plain and simple terms. Let's get started. Owning a home has always been seen as a big part of the American dream. It means you're financially stable and starting a new chapter in your life. Renting, though, is often thought of as just spending money without getting anything in return. But it wasn't until the 1940s that owning a home became a big deal for most Americans. Before that, fewer than half of people owned their homes. Then, the government made it easier for the middle class to get mortgages. Now about 66% of Americans own their homes. But is buying a home still a good idea? With interest rates going up, not many houses available, and prices higher than ever, it's worth thinking about whether it's really the right move financially. The research team at Today's Homeowner conducted a big study to see if it's better to buy a house or rent one. They looked at the costs for 30 years to see which option saves more money. Also, they asked 1,000 people who rent about why they don't buy a house. The results might be unexpected for people who own homes and those who rent. In certain places, owning a home can actually cost more than renting over 30 years. The study looked at renting versus buying homes in 97 cities. It found that in 46 cities, renting for a long time is cheaper than buying. This is because interest rates for loans are going up, house prices are soaring, and the down payments are high. In California, 7 cities are in the top 10 where renting is cheaper than buying. For example, in Irvine, California, someone who rents their home can save nearly $1.3 million over 30 years compared to buying. In 4 California cities, the down payment for a mortgage can be as high as $90,000. Outside California, 3 cities made it to the top 10: Arlington, Virginia, Austin, Texas, and Madison, Wisconsin. Although the down payments in these cities are lower, ranging from $28,000 to $52,000, renters can still save around $400,000 to $600,000 over 30 years compared to buying. In some parts of the US, it's actually cheaper to buy a house than to rent one for 30 years. A research team made a list of the top 10 cities where it's cheaper to own a home. These cities are all over the country, like on the East Coast, in the South, and in the Midwest. Even in big cities like New York City, owning a home can save you money compared to renting. For instance, homeowners there might spend $2.1 million over 30 years, while renters could spend $2.4 million. The down payments for buying a home in these top 10 cities aren't super expensive either. In Detroit, Michigan, you might only need around $5,950 to make a down payment, and in Baltimore, Maryland, it could be as low as $15,400. In Nashville, Tennessee, which is our top pick, homeowners can save nearly $700,000 compared to renters. Let's now look at whether it's better to rent or own a home, especially in the short term. So basically, what can be found in most big cities, renting is cheaper than buying a house. For example, between August 2022 and July 2023, renting was cheaper in 88 out of 96 major cities. Most of these cities were in California, where house prices are very high. One reason for this is that mortgage rates have gone up a lot in the last few years. They used to be low from 2008 to 2022, but now they've gone up from about 5 to 9% across the country. So if you live in a city like San Francisco, California, you might have to pay around $8,000 a month for a mortgage, while the average rent is only about $3,500. A lot of people who rent homes think it's too hard to buy one. People did in surveys and saw most renters, about 78%, want to own a home someday. But right now, most of them, around 69%, think renting is better. They say the housing market is a big reason they're not buying. In the survey, they also found that the average down payment for buying a home is about $33,000. But 59% of the people they asked said they couldn't afford that. They also talked about how interest rates are going up, and there aren't many affordable homes in their area. Many renters find it hard to buy a home because they have a lot of debt, like credit card debt. Surveyors asked some renters, and 20% said this debt makes it tough to own a house. Everything is getting more expensive because of inflation, but people's salaries aren't going up fast enough to cover these costs. Just to give you an idea, the amount of money owed on credit cards across the country has shot up to nearly $986 billion, which is a lot more than it was before the pandemic when it was $927 billion. Renting your home has good and bad points. Many people have been asked about this, and most, 62%, said they like not having to pay for housing when they rent instead of buying. But owning a home can be expensive. For example, you might need to replace your roof 2 times in 30 years. That could cost around $12,000 each time. Also, things like fixing your HVAC system or furnace can be pricey, up to $9,000. Even just replacing one window can cost between $400 and $1,000. So in total, homeowners might have to spend about $90,000 on repairs over 30 years. Renting has some problems too. People worry about having bad neighbors, 49%, and maybe getting kicked out of their rented home, 48%. The Department of Housing and Urban Development says about 2 million renters might get evicted every year, especially in areas where there aren't many cheap homes to rent. Through study, we learned that 46% of people think it's a downside of renting because they can't build equity. When you own a home, you can use the value of your home to borrow money for things like fixing it up or paying bills. And later on, when you sell your house, you might even make some extra money. Right now, homeowners across the country have about $136,000 worth of value in their homes. Choosing between renting and buying a home can be tricky. It really depends on your situation. If you live in a place where home prices are super high, renting might be a good idea for now and in the future. But in some areas, owning a home could still be better, even if interest rates are high, especially if you plan to stay there for a long time. However, buying a house isn't the best move for everyone's money situation. People thinking about becoming homeowners should think about not just where they live, but also if owning a home makes sense for them in both the short and long term. Today's homeowner looked at data in 97 big cities in the US. They only looked at how much people pay for housing, not utilities like water or electricity. Remember, these numbers are just guesses, not exact amounts. They guessed that the rent people pay will go up bit by bit over the next 30 years. They used guesses and past trends from HUD to figure this out. They didn't try to guess how much property taxes might go up. They did their calculations for a 3-bedroom house, both for homeowners and renters. Many researchers talked to 1,000 people who rent houses about what they think about renting or buying a home. They also asked why they choose to rent or buy, and when they want to own a house. They did this survey in the previous year. After getting all the answers, they made sure they represent different kinds of people in the US, like young and old people, men and women, and people with different incomes. They did this to make sure our results show what all Americans think, not just one group. Moreover, if you're a middle-income family trying to figure out whether to rent or buy in today's market, remember this: renting can offer flexibility and lower upfront costs, while buying can build equity and provide stability. Consider your financial situation, future plans, and local housing market trends before making your decision. Ultimately, it's about finding what works best for you and your family's needs. And here we are ending. Hope this video will be helpful in finding your answer.